hating is like 75% of the reason that we watch college football. It may not be the most healthy thing in the world, but if you look at the environment, college football is all about rivalries. How much you hate your rival, how much you want to go to work and be able to talk smack around the water cooler, or these days, more like you want to be able to log on to Twitter or Facebook or whatever it might be, and you want to fire off a shot at your rival or the buddy or your cousin, friend, whatever it might be. Okay? So I'm giving you a hater's guide to the 2025 college football season. To me, I'm giving you a top 5 and some honorable mentions of who will be the most hated entities in college football this year. This will have a slight Big 12 tint to it. Like for Big 12 fans, these will be the most hated entities, generally speaking. Obviously, I know that like Baylor fans are going to hate TCU. That's probably not going to be the case across the league widespread. I think you'll understand once I start getting going with this list. But a lot of these really apply nationally too. I think especially number 1. If you stick around for number 1 is something that I don't know if everybody has considered this, how bad this is going to be this year for everybody. Not just Big 12 fans, but everybody is going to get really sick of the number 1 most hated thing this year. Here's honorable mentions though, okay? Colorado. Colorado is still a lightning rod, perhaps a little bit less so just because I think the attention will dip on them slightly with Bill Belichick here. Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson, excuse me. Certain people, though, are always going to hate Colorado. They have a faction, a fan out there that is just going to hate the way Deion operates, hate the way that program is run. Last year, I think it was really hate like Shedeur Sanders in particular. Kind of hard to hate Travis Hunter, but hate how Shedeur Sanders conducted himself, which I think is pretty unfair. But there was all of that. You're going to get that. And then you're just going to get the Deion fans, like the Deion hive, the people who are not Colorado fans, who don't really have a great grasp on the intricacies of college football, but are just there to be Deion fans, which is fine. And I'm all for the sport having more casual fans, right? I mean, these are the casuals. Bring them in. Have them watch the Big 12. That's awesome. Big 12 needs that. That's why you need those big TV numbers that Colorado puts up. But that doesn't mean that those fans can't get very annoying. They can. So Colorado is still going to be there. Probably not as strongly hated as last year, I would imagine. But we'll see. If they win games, if they win 9 games again, it'll be hot and heavy. SMU makes my honorable mention list. They were already a very annoying online fan base. This is a pretty online one. Okay, but SMU was pretty yappy once they joined the ACC, wanting to flaunt all the money that SMU donors have, and that was going to be able to buy them whatever they wanted. Now they jumped into the Power Four, and they were telling everybody who would listen how great that was going to be for them. They've got all this money. You're poor. Blah, 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 blah. And I thought, well, this will just be a cute little thing. BYU then beats SMU early on in the year. Big 12 gets its moment, and all SMU does is go on to then make the playoff. And so now you've got that SMU fan base armed with a playoff season. Look, that's going to be way worse if you're TCU for sure, or even Baylor, Tech, schools that are in Texas around there. But, boy, can imagine SMU is probably going to be a pretty annoying fan base if they have another really successful season. Finally, honorable mention, I think I speak for everybody outside of SEC country when I say Ole Miss. I say Ole Miss here, and it's because of just how wild Lane got on Twitter. I mean, Lane has just become insufferable, and I'm a guy who enjoys Lane. I think and I still do to an extent, I think he's a good character for the game. I think the game is better, the sport is better when you have great characters, people that love to hate, all of that. You need those type of people there. But man, would it be nice to see Ole Miss go 7-5 and not even have a chance to complain about the playoff, though Lane Kiffin would probably find a way to still tweet snarky things about the College Football Playoff Selection Committee during the playoff, even if Ole Miss went 7-5. All right, we've arrived at number 5. This one's pretty specific to the Big 12, I will admit. But it's your number 2 G5 contender. This is piggybacking off of the conversation I had earlier in the show tonight about how last year you spent half the season arguing with people about Boise and the merits of who should get the final bye. And then it turned into, wow, now you've got to defend yourself even against whoever the number 2 G5 contender is. The bye thing won't matter this year because, unfortunately, the Big 12, ACC, G6, they all gave in and just said, fine, we'll just take the top 4 teams and give them a bye. They acquiesced on that, which I didn't love, but they did. So now it'll be all about once a second G5 contender comes in. I mean, hopefully the Big 12 won't have to deal with as much of it this year if some of the favorites do perform well. But I think even if they do, you're still going to have some crowd of people like, oh, man, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, hey, James Madison, should we be pushing James Madison instead of a Big 12 champion here to be the 5th highest ranked conference champ? Should we do that? Should we get 2 G5s in there? It's going to create some hate, some weird battles, just like last year for a time. It was like I'm on Twitter I'm like, why? I really don't want to be having to like slam Tulane here. I really don't want to be having to slam Army, our nation's armed forces. I don't want to have to do that, but I'm being forced to do that because of these ridiculous playoff discussions. Number four most hated. This one is at number 4 for Big 12 fans. It would be number 2 probably on the list overall if you're talking about college football at large, but it's the SEC in general. Just the SEC. We're going to get a little more granular and specific on the SEC later, but the SEC in general, completely insufferable during the 1 year last year where they didn't get just over-the-top preferential treatment from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, like not just egregious preferential treatment. They instead got, I would still argue, preferential treatment by even having Alabama and Ole Miss considered as much as they were for the final at-large spot, despite having 3 losses and losing to horrible teams, the likes of Oklahoma and Kentucky. Man, I mean, it was crazy to the point where not only, I mean, the Lane Kiffin tweets were one thing. The SEC media mafia and the fanboys online are another thing. The millions of hypothetical wins that the SEC picked up in the month of November and December, the months of November and December last year, that's one thing. But how about now we've got Greg Sankey saying, man, ESPN FPI, we need to get all these numbers and only let those numbers. Strength of schedule, I need guarantees on how you guys are going to weigh strength of schedule here with this. It's like, man, they are going to all-out war over this literally 1 year after Alabama got into the 4-team field over unbeaten ACC champ Florida State. Like, it's amazing how much the spoiled child was not able to handle not getting the toy that it demanded right that second for once. So I think everybody, I speak for the entire college football world, except for the southeastern portion of the United States, everybody would be very happy to see the SEC struggle, and we'll be hating on the SEC like crazy this year. You know, Big Ten probably even a little more irked with the SEC now than normal because they can't agree on a playoff format, and the SEC was sort of the fly in the ointment on that after Brett Yormark first pitched 5+11. Number 3, as we get a little bit more Big 12 specific, number 3 to me is Nebraska. Nebraska, I feel like, even as I'm doing this, I admit I probably should have had SEC over Nebraska. Maybe this one got a little bit too personal for me, but I love taking digs at the Huskers, who really got this party started of Big 12 exodus back in the 2010 conference realignment wave, right? Very, very enjoyable to see Nebraska go a decade without making a bowl game. They finally got back there last year. They're 7-6. They have not finished the season ranked since 2012, which is pretty amazing, and that was at number 25 in the country. They have fallen on tough times. And you might say, well, Matt Rule seems like a likable coach. I don't know. I went into last year thinking that. I don't know, man. Matt Rule is starting to get very annoying, particularly the press conference comments he made about Iowa State. He's getting his butt kicked in recruiting by the Cyclones in state. Dropped a comment insinuating like, well, they're Iowa State, we're Nebraska. We got to be more careful. You know, when you're a program that consistently wins 4 or 5 games a year, you've got to be really, really discerning and careful about who it is that you're bringing into your program. That clearly matters when you are a program of that caliber. It's quite annoying. And I think for Big 12 fans who had to deal with Nebraska's attitude in the Big 12, everything that was happening in the 90s when they were really killing everybody, like they were the power. shared that mantle with Oklahoma for a lot of those years in the Big 8, but the Big 12, dude, in the 90s, Nebraska, totally insufferable. It's great to watch them become a bottom-tier Power 4 team that is now being made fun of by Vandy. I love it. Oklahoma's number 2. Should be no real surprise who's 2-1 here. Oklahoma's number 2. I still blame Texas more. I think most Big 12 fans would for the exodus of the Big 12 that started everything in 2021, kicked off that round of realignment. But still, a lot of Oklahoma talk about how lowly this conference was. They just dominated it every year, which they generally did. But to see Oklahoma struggle last year in the SEC was quite delightful. They go 3 straight years without making the Big 12 championship game at the end of their tenure in the league, and then go 2-6 in their first year with the big boys in the SEC. That was pretty chef's kiss. Brent Venables still floundering here. Would be great. Would be great to see that continue. Although the one caveat to that I will say is if they fire Brent Venables, I think the odds of them getting a better head coach are pretty high. Pretty high. But for me, still a lot of animosity toward Oklahoma. Very easy to root against the Sooners. Number 1, and guys, I'm telling you, I don't know that we've considered how annoying this is going to get this year. Maybe other people, there's been more talk about this. I just haven't noticed it. This is probably something that in a world where we didn't have conference realignment, or in this case, playoff, and these big picture, like college football things to be worrying about in the offseason, we would talk a lot more about this. But get ready for Arch Manning in Texas being Tim Tebow in Florida this year. I mean, I opened Athlon, the preview magazine, earlier today. I was hanging out by the pool, just doing a little bit of reading. And man, I mean, it was like every other page at the beginning of that. The forward to the entire issue included a couple of paragraphs about Arch Manning from the guy who's just like explain, like, hey, thanks for buying this. We're going to get some Tim Tebow effect here with Arch Manning. People are not going to shut up about him now that he is actually playing and is the starting quarterback at Texas. It's going to be out of control. Texas is already very hateable. It's already very annoying to deal with Texas as much as we all have to. Imagine now that they have a Manning playing quarterback, and there's been all this Arch buildup for so long. You talk about casuals coming into the game. You're going to get the casuals, who become Arch fans just because of what his last name is. You throw that all on top of just Texas being Texas, who they are, how much Big 12 fans absolutely hate the Longhorns for everything that Texas put the Big 12 through while generally underachieving in the conference and then leaving. Yeah, Texas takes the top spot. This is a great year. If you hate Texas, you want to be a Texas hater, this is an outstanding Texas hating year. All right. So get ready for that. Make sure you get your Twitter fingers ready, fire up your drafts, whatever it is that you need to do to get prepared to hate on Texas this year. Everybody, not just in the Big 12, everybody.